And I think through all the long career that I've had, I can see myself in a lot of the comments that were reflected in that, Breaking the Barriers report. So some of it is a sort of an emotional response, and some of it is a scientific, logical response, which is, what do we do now? There are lots of barriers in the way and lots of small, each individual thing is incremental and could be sort of minuscule, but they add up and add up and add up and add up. And I think that either breaks you or it turns you into something maybe that you didn't want to be. And I think I came down to the fact that it was sad.
I don't want to think that my friends or the younger students behind me are going to be disenfranchised by chemistry. I want to make sure that we open doors for them. I think it's the pipeline is important here, because the actions are targeting different stages in the pipeline, and that's really critical, because if you only target one stage, then people will still fall off regardless. And I think that was what was really nice about having the Carers Fund, for example, the helpline. All of these things will help people at different points in their career.
I like the idea of the slow chemistry,
Yeah.
that you might cap. So for instance, if you asked people to give their 5 best papers, then that would force them to give some sort of analysis. What was their contribution? Why have they picked those? What was so critical about them in their careers? Rather than 30 publications or, with their PhD supervisor, because at the moment it can depend on key career decisions that you've made along the way. If you've worked with a very influential large group, then you may have many more publications, and yet your contribution to each one doesn't merit a higher value than somebody that worked for a starting out academic who really carved the research direction. So I like the idea of the slow chemistry. I also have to say that as I've gone through life, I've got braver. And I was head of school for 5 years, and like Leslie, I enjoyed it. It was really challenging, but there are things that every single woman can do to make it better for the people behind them, or indeed their own peers, even if it's just a shoulder to cry on, a shared experience. I think that makes an enormous difference, because a lot of it is about giving somebody the hug when they need it to keep going.
I think it's also things like nominating people for awards.
Absolutely.
As well, encouraging people to actually apply, offering to read fellowships, which sounds like a really small, simple thing, but it's a really scary thing to write these big documents that maybe you've never done before.
Yeah.
And if you've been through that experience and you've been through that process, you probably had help, so you've probably got an idea of what you need. So offering that hand back to your colleague is going to be really helpful to them, to help them grow as well.
I've heard many male colleagues say to me, gender equality is all very well, but we just appoint the best. And I say, your problem is that your merit, the things that you're using to merit somebody, the things that you're grading people are disadvantaging others.
Yes.
So for instance, if I was to give you a score on your ability to put on makeup, you would immediately say that was unfair. So you shouldn't really ask women things that are intrinsically unfair, because their markers are not going to be the same.
We're always less automatically than men, and I think that's really unfair, because there is amazing science being done. Women are doing incredible things, and why are we not framing it in this way? Why are we not saying, Sylvia's incredible, she's done amazing science. Oh, Sylvia's doing work that's, almost as good as a man, or as good as a man. Neither of these things is acceptable. Sylvia's incredible in her own right, and we should be framing her as such.
The men are now in a position to understand and to listen to this. Many young men are also with young families, are also committed to picking their children up from creche, also have difficulty travelling around the world to go to conferences. So we're in a position now where I think that our voices will be heard, because I think the audience is more receptive to it.
Men as allies are incredibly
Yes.
important, and we need them. We need everyone.
We do.